you can see the ad spend is following revenue, which has been a really simple concept that I've been wanting for years that for some reason was just hard for me to get with previous agencies. Just knowing that every ad dollar that we're spending is strategic and profitable. It sounds cliche to say, but it helps me sleep at night. And it's no longer this just sinking feeling of, yeah, we're spending all this money on ads, but it's not making anything. So knowing that it's actually a good effort and is returning a profit is just the best feeling.
Hey, Cameron, how are you doing?
Hey, Andrej, doing great. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Can you quickly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about SpeedCubeShop?
So my name is Cameron Brown, and I'm the founder of SpeedCubeShop. We are the original puzzle retailer since 2009, selling specialty speed cubes, twisty puzzles, accessories, and kind of everything in that space. So we were the first ones in the US to start selling this product and are working on continuing to be the global leaders.
Nice. And where would you say was SpeedCubeShop at before we started working together? Both in terms of just like general business wise, but also in terms of paid advertising.
We were at an okay place. It was during a lot of transitionary periods of really just sort of doing a company-wide cleanup and just really trying to optimize and make sure that we're really putting every single dollar to maximum efficiency as possible. As far as the paid ads go, I had a lot of confidence problems in that realm specifically. We had used a Facebook marketing agency the year prior that left us in a really bad spot going into January of that following year. They had overspent a bunch on ads. They were not refreshing creatives. They weren't making creatives. And they just were spending while revenue was substantially going down. So I left that agency and went to a second agency, which tells you all the stuff that they're always going to tell you about how things are going to be so much better and everything's going to be great. And we're going to do this, this, and this. And there's so much, they always say there's so much opportunity here. And that's become like my trigger word now. So they get into the account and same thing. They things looked okay on the Google side of the house, but for the Facebook, it's just the amount that they spent additionally, or the amount that they spent in excess prior to the previous period of the previous year, was almost identical to the dollar, the amount that our revenue had decreased. And we're talking good six figures. So they were overspending substantially while revenue was going in the exact opposite direction. And from that point on, my confidence was just completely shaken. And I felt like approaching this agency and expressing my concerns always resulted in sort of almost an argument dynamic where my feedback was kind of seen as an attack. And instead of just working towards a solution or kind of maintaining transparency, it was sort of seen as like, oh, well, we got to look at this. Or they're kind of always shifting the blame to me and saying, oh, well, it's other parts of the business that's the issue. My biggest problem is I never had any real understanding of what numbers they were using to decide if we were profitable or not. It just sort of felt like they were only really chasing ROAS and a few other like new customer acquisition cost metrics. But my whole problem was, even if ROAS looks good, if there's no money extra in my bank account at the end of the day, who really cares? I think like anyone can sort of just throw money into a Facebook or Google ads account and generate revenue. And so, yeah, that was pretty much the position that we were in prior to me being referred to you.
Yeah. And that's so frustrating to hear. And I also remember like when we initially started talking and I was looking at the charts and I saw how the revenue and the ad spend had almost like no correlation at all. Like sometimes the ad spend would go up and revenue would go down, and it wouldn't like the ad spend wouldn't show any real effect on the revenue, if that makes sense. And then also obviously what you mentioned, that it was very difficult to know like how much can you actually spend to acquire a customer, like how much does it make sense to push the ad spend, or are you just like increasing maybe revenue short term but not increasing the bottom line of the business. And that's what we hear quite a lot.
Yeah, and the difference is I had the numbers. They were all there and ready to be used and just were not being used. So that was the most frustrating part.
Yeah. And then what made you initially partner up with us? And like what stood out from our approach?
I was referred to you by a good friend who understood my situation and knows how much I despise agencies. And immediately when we had our first call, I mean, I don't know if you remember, like, I think you were generous enough to allow me to go past the hour because we just were bouncing so many ideas. And the I appreciated the insight that you gave into the ad accounts before we even started working together, which really gave me the confidence to like better understand what your approach was going to be, where, and not just saying that there's opportunity, but actually explaining what you would do. And I appreciated that transparency because I felt like there was somewhat of a, it wasn't like a secret sauce, but some people could just take that information and run and just be like, oh, I'm just going to do this by myself. And it really allowed me to make some optimizations on my own while I was kind of waiting out the contract term with my previous agency and trying to get out of that during quarter 4, which was a very stressful time already. So just through our conversations, your confidence, your approach, and just your always assuring me that like we're going to be looking at numbers and we're actually going to have sense behind what we're spending, what we're doing. And yeah, I just really appreciate you guys' approach to making sure that it's profitable. And just really, I feel like you guys are kind of pulling every lever with that within each platform instead of just sort of a set it and forget it type, mentality. I mean, some of these agencies I've worked with, I feel like someone who has been out of the running my own ad account for the last 10 years, I think I could do just as good of a job. So, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Glad to hear that. And also, yeah, I remember we had quite a few calls before we started working together. And yeah, I think at least two of them were probably like an hour long.
yeah,
And yeah, you mentioned that obviously there will be potentially brands that just like take all of that information and then like implement it themselves or try to implement it themselves. But we always try to provide as much value as possible upfront because a lot of our clients had very bad experiences with agencies in the past, similar to you. And it's very difficult to build that trust without like showing some expertise and without like actually starting to work together. So at least through doing like an in-depth audit, coming up with a strategy, talking to the founders, that is how we can really like ensure that we're the right fit to work with them, and that we think we can help them grow, and then also for the brand, obviously, to understand whether we are the right partner for them or not.
yeah, for sure.
And you already briefly mentioned that, but so far, like, what was the experience like working with a team?
It's been amazing. I mean, as you know, I like to routinely compliment you guys in our calls because it is nice that through my previous agencies, I did learn what might be an obvious lesson to some other founders, which is I feel like I need to audit my own ad accounts and triple whale accounts. Like I just have been trying to look at them on a daily basis and just make sure that everything is sort of looking in line. And it's just always nice that even though I'm still checking them when I go in, it's not like I'm seeing those huge surprises or like starting off my morning with just my gut sinking and just feeling like, wow, like again, ad spend is going up while revenue is going down. The fact that you guys have detailed profit tracking sheets and can actually show me how, when, and why you're making these decisions is also very assuring to me. The fact that you guys are taking the financial information that I'm offering to you so that way we can make as informed of a decision as possible is amazing. Even for situations where like triple whales expense tracking, it's a good feature, but it doesn't really give you that day-to-day visibility that we need unless you're sitting there every single day and manually logging expenses, which is a pretty substantial task. So the fact that we were, instead of just shying away like previous agencies have and saying like, oh, well, this is pretty much what it is, so we're just going to have to estimate and deal with this, which estimating with large amounts of money that we work really hard to generate is not very comforting for me. So the fact that we were able to find an alternate solution that works for all of us and still has the confidence makes me feel really good. And you guys take initiative. There's no excuses. Things get done. There's regular updates. The updates are easy to understand and digest. And it's just nice knowing that we really work together as far as that we can generate creatives and talk about them. But also, you guys don't just stop with us. And if we're not generating the creatives as the company, you guys are still doing things in the background and doing what you can to push instead of just saying like, oh, well, you didn't make any creatives this week. So pretty much nothing happened, which, that's not what we signed up for. Is we're happy to help with creative assistance, but that's not our primary job. And so I just really appreciate that the work quality is good. You guys do a good job of also making sure that the information that you're running in the ad creatives is accurate, spellings are correct, terminologies are correct. And yeah, the ads have just been really good. And overall, I think the strategy makes sense. And it's just nice seeing that even though ad spend is down compared to last year, like revenue is up. And I finally have that confidence that you can see the ad spend is following revenue, which has been a really simple concept that I've been wanting for years that for some reason was just hard for me to get with previous agencies.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. And yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. Really, really great to hear. Um, you briefly already mentioned that also, but like very generally speaking, like how have the results been so far? I think we're now almost 3 months into the partnership.
Yeah. So far, the results have been really good. We've been going through some weird economic times and also having issues with stock availability. But even beyond that, it's nice that budgets and ad spends are being routinely adjusted to adapt to the current situation. So even if things aren't being like we're not pushing as hard as we could be due to like stock out issues that are beyond anyone's control, for example, at least we're not just spending and burning dollars. And once the stock situation was resolved, it's just nice to see that when budgets are being pushed and more of our hard-earned dollars are being spent, you can actually see a tangible result for that. And I can also appreciate that you guys don't just ramp up ad spend just for the sake of trying to make more of a it's not like a royalty, but taking a percentage of the ad spend. You guys don't just throw money into ad spend budgets just to try to like ramp it up, make more money, and then leave. It's like it's all very long term and strategic, which I know I told you several times in our initial calls that I hate. I'm not like an agency hopper. I would love just to have one place that I can work with for the rest of my company's life and just be good. So I'm looking for long-term partnerships, and I feel like we have achieved that, and I'm really, really, really happy and grateful that we have.
Yeah, yeah, same here, same here. What do you feel like was the biggest improvement from our partnership compared to the previous partnerships?
The performance is better, but the biggest thing that I love is just the financial transparency as far as understanding that we are profitable and understanding like this is how much we can push while being profitable. And hey, do we want to push past this? And maybe there's a strategic kind of like advertising expense angle associated with that. But just knowing that every ad dollar that we're spending is strategic and profitable, it sounds cliche to say, but it helps me sleep at night. And it's no longer this just sinking feeling of, yeah, we're spending all this money on ads, but it's not making anything. So knowing that it's actually a good effort and is returning a profit is just the best feeling.
Yeah, yeah, having the peace of mind
Yes.
definitely helps.
Yeah.
Was there anything that surprised you about the partnership? I know we talked quite a lot before, so you already, I think, had a lot of insights on like how we approach things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What surprised me is how detailed your guys' workbooks and like spreadsheets are as far as like, the profit tracking and really how in depth you guys go and also how quickly you can turn around information. And just the fact too that I'm sort of used to dynamics where like I'll submit a request or a message on Slack. I'm kind of having to chase for a response. I'm the one like following up, following up, following up. But you guys do a really good job of like being responsive, answering questions, getting things done, even without me having to follow up. And just again, how detailed the spreadsheets and everything is. It just really makes me, it's not just like overly detailed just to be like flashy and blingy, but it's detailed with the purpose and it all makes sense, which just makes me feel very confident in who is managing our advertising budget.
awesome. What would you say to another brand that is considering working with HoloGrowth, but is still not sure whether we're the right fit for them?
That just give it a chance. And I know that an agency is an agency, but they do break the mold of a traditional agency. So I would just say take the leap, and you won't be sorry.
Awesome.
I'd say
Any
the
last
only regret
thoughts?
people would have, like myself, is not being able to join sooner.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Any last thoughts you want to share about the experience or anything else?
I think we covered most of it, but just the fact that I do really appreciate the dynamics with the team and the energy and effort that's been put into really learning about my brand and my product, and even handling creators that we mutually work with that are on my side of the team, with the tact and care and just the patience that's needed to kind of help nurture those relationships. Especially when one of them in particular was very apprehensive to running the what they call the creator ads.
Yeah, collaborator ads. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, very apprehensive to run the collaborator ads, and you guys have done a great job of restoring his confidence in running those, which is great for everybody that's involved. So, yeah, just can't say enough good things about the team, and that's coming from someone who don't want to call myself pessimistic, but I'm just very skeptical because I've been burned so many times. So it's just as nice to sort of feel like we're working together, not against each other.
yeah, yeah. And that's how it should be ideally in a partnership with an agency or a growth partner.
Yeah, totally agree.
Cool. Cameron, really appreciate you giving us the chance to work together,
Yeah.
and really looking forward to a very long term partnership, and hopefully being the last agency that you ever have to
Yes,
work with.
me too. Yeah, likewise, and thank you, Andre. Same here.